Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be shedding light on why people are exiting the real private sector workforce amid the Great Resignation. So why is there an exodus from the real private sector workforce amid the Great Resignation? Why is the unemployment rate slated to amplify to an unprecedented height amid the Great Resignation? Well, lamentably, people are tired of working real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand. Real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand are often deemed highly time-consuming, dead-end, minimum wage, dispiriting, unfulfilling, undesirable, harrowing, distressful, brutally wretched jobs that do not pay anything close to even 1/4 of a subsistence wage. Companies are reaping all-time high profits. They're more than capable of offering livable wages to their employees, but they refuse to do so. Their overarching goal is to maximize the wealth of their shareholders at all costs and maximize their profits. They do not care an iota about the well-being of their employees. So, based on the pay grades between the CEO and the system managers, they deem 2 hours of the system managers' sacrosanct time to be commensurate to 1 second of the CEO's time. It stands to preponderantly reason that the CEO was not 743,000% more productive than an assistant manager, to say the least. If an assistant manager were to work for a company for at least 208,000 hours per year over the course of half a century, or 5 decades or 50 years, after 5 decades elapsed, after 50 years elapsed, the assistant manager would gross less revenue in 104,000 hours working for an employer than the CEO would be able to gross in under 15 hours. That is the disparity in wealth between the CEO and the assistant managers. The disparity in wealth is at least 743,000% between the assistant managers and the CEO. A livable wage is at least an average net wage of $122 per hour. That's how much you would need if you wanted to retire after 2 decades or 20 years elapsed, after working full-time for at least 2,080 hours per year, which equates to 41,600 hours over the course of 2 decades. You would need to have invested at least $3,600,000 in the equities market and stocks that bear 2% dividend yields, so that by the time you retired, after 20 years elapsed, you would have at least $3,600,000 in the equities market, so that you could receive at least $6,000 dividend payouts per month, which equates to $72,000 in dividend payouts annually. But companies are reticent about paying their employees a livable wage. They are recalcitrant about doing so, and they will never acquiesce to doing so. The profits are reserved for the shareholders, the executives, and the CEO, to say the least, and they'll just pay their employees, especially the frontline employees, a pittance of fiat currency, which is not even enough to afford them a subsistence wage, because even if an employer were to work full-time on behalf of an employer, they still cannot attain their utmost lowest level basic needs. They're relegated to the utmost lowest tier on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Working a full-time minimum wage job cannot afford you housing and food. It's quite a shame and quite a pity, but it is what it is. I know the money that is being funneled into the CEO's salary is not going to circulate throughout the economy. He's not going to buy thousands of houses. He's not going to buy thousands of cars. He's not going to buy millions of products. So the money multiplier effect is not going to transpire when the money's not being circulated throughout the economy. The CEO is just going to invest the money to further amplify his net worth, to say the least. He'll probably buy equities, corporate bonds, annuities, rental properties. I know the luxuries and amenities that he yearns to possess, but that's a topic for another video. So people are exiting the real private sector workforce amid the great resignation because they know that working these real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand is an unwarranted pursuit. They not only induce chronic burnout, chronic fatigue, chronic stress, and an increased mortality rate, but also provide no basis for a future because they don't even pay a livable wage. There is no possible way to retire off a minimum wage or a wage that is negligibly above a minimum wage. To retire after 40 years elapsed, after working full-time for 40 years, you would need to earn at least an average net wage of $78 per hour, which is not as arduous as earning $122 per hour over the course of 20 years, but it is still nonetheless cumbersome to earn that amount of revenue even as an entrepreneur. People are disincentivized to work. They're deterred from working because you're penalized from working in this control market economy. Your hard-earned money that you earn if you work a real private sector job based on voluntary demand is eviscerated out of your bank account and remitted to welfare aristocrats. People work real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand, subsidize the amenities, the luxuries, the unlimited money, and the unlimited benefits of welfare aristocrats. People are enticed to become welfare aristocrats, and they are doing so all the more profusely amid the great resignation. If you're a welfare aristocrat, you do not have to work in any capacity, and you'll be able to receive unlimited money in tandem with unlimited benefits for the entirety of your life. How is this possible? Well, people work real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand in this control market economy, are mandated to subsidize the amenities, the luxuries, and the unlimited money and unlimited benefits of welfare aristocrats. By becoming a welfare aristocrat, you can indulge in attaining the highest standard of living. Welfare aristocrats have been able to absolve themselves of all responsibilities, and they could just basking, pursuing stress alleviating activities for the entirety of the day. They can indulge in experiencing the accoutrements of the high life every day for the remainder of their lives. They have no responsibilities. They have unlimited money and unlimited benefits, and they can live their lives however they deem fit. So, people are tired of working real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand. Before the Great Resignation transpired, the unemployment rate was at least 90 to 95%, in which only 5 to 10% of the population worked real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand. But after the Great Resignation elapses, the economic aftermath of the Great Resignation will culminate in the real private sector workforce being dwindled down to 2 to 3% of people working real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand. When I say 2 to 3% of people work real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand, I'm insinuating that only 2 to 3% of the population is employed, in the sense that that percentage of the population will work real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand. An exorbitant amount of people work boondoggles jobs. However, those boondoggles jobs that exist in a controlled market economy should not be deemed real jobs, because they are subsidized by people who work real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand. Those boondoggle jobs would not only never exist in a free market economy in which people had purview over their hard-earned money was spent, but just because someone works a boondoggles job does not mean that they should ever be considered employed due to not having a real private sector job based on voluntary demand. So I hope that you found this video to be insightful and enthralling. Have a blissful day. Goodbye.